matter how many years I do this podcast, that music is still so funky. I still love it. You know, that, and a fact for you guys that just started listening to Shrewsbury Biscuit, that's actually performed by Cosmic Rays, which is Charlie Adlard's band from The Walking Dead fame. And today I'm joined with Alex McCarthy. How are you? You good?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come speak to us, because life is crazy, and I'm so glad we've managed to get this together, because I feel I've mentioned you a couple of times actually. I've a few people that I know, they're out there and active. I mentioned that you're coming on the show. I've been really excited about it. And lots of people know who you are. And it's really nice that we're finally doing this. So thank you.
No problem. And that's really cool to know that. So yeah, thank you.
You're out there.
I'm out there in the world. I mean, I should know this. I'm on Instagram enough, posting stories and putting myself out there.
You work hard. You work really, really hard. And it's for someone who's, you know, I'm part of a clique of people that can tend to be quite thirsty when it comes to, you know, if you're doing your thing, you've probably seen a lot of podcasters that are going, listen to my show, and they're everywhere, and they post their links everywhere. It's, you know, and it's one of those things where I try and make a presence of myself without becoming a nuisance, if that makes sense. Do you think there's a fine line between that?
That's an interesting question. As someone who is fascinated with mindset and that fine line between am I being too much versus I need to talk about what I do so people know who I am. I think that there's no such thing as being too much, because when you're talking to your people, they need to and want to know what you have to say. And I've slowly learned that it's okay to not be everybody's cup of tea. And as long as the people that are my cup of tea are in my audience and liking it and hearing it.
It's a case of weaning out the people that don't want to be there and bringing in the people that do.
Yeah, and I feel like the more you show up and the more you talk about your thing and the more you put it out there, you will attract and you will repel. And when I say repel, it's simply we're not built to be here to serve absolutely everybody and for everybody to love what we have to say and what we stand for. But the people who are your people will really be your people. Like you create that fan base, you know? And
I see you guys on my social media. you know who you are. And it's a funny one, because when the Biscuit first started, we were just talking now about, you know, a few years ago, started on social media, and there's a few times I'd like thrown some things on social media, like, you know, I think when you first start doing this kind of thing, there's a few things not to do, and it's like it's asking people, like the polls and things can be a bit of a difficult thing to do, because you can throw up a poll and like no one will vote, and you're like, ugh. You know, those silly things that I used to do at the beginning, but I can do that now because we have an audience, whereas before I think I'd set myself up to fail inside my own head in my own way, because there are certain things that I won't do on social media now because of them failures. You know what I mean?
Interesting, but I think that anyone who starts anything, I always say any winner was once a beginner, right? We'll have to start somewhere, and I feel like there's that initial stage that takes so much courage, where you are showing up and you don't know if anybody's watching, and you don't know if anybody's going to like it, and it takes real bravery to do that. I still put up polls that nobody votes in. I still do the odd live that only gets a couple of people dropping in, but it's being able to have the resilience to brush yourself back down and go, yeah, we'll go again.
I found actually, I was at the St. Mary's the other day, and it was a steampunk spooktacular. It was fantastic, right? And I went up in the pulpit, which is quite high. I like to get videos and photos of that. It's quite nice. And I did a live, but I found it was like me sort of calming myself down a little bit, because I do suffer from social anxiety. Even though I know the people out there enjoying what I'm doing, sometimes I'll throw up a live and I'll be like, oh my God. And then by the time I finished it, I'm kind of calmed myself down. I think people see that process and enjoy it.
And it's very endearing for people to see that as well. And I think that similar to yourself, I'm someone who, a previous version of myself, really suffered with social anxiety, which kind of got me on this path of doing what I do now to directly combat that. But I would say that when you show up as yourself and you're not trying to be somebody else, you're not trying to be more confident, you're not trying to be more anything, you're just being you become relatable. And I think that makes it really engaging, actually, for people to want to be part of that, because you're being human.
Yeah, The human element's really important. And now I can see how things are growing. And I don't want to compare myself to you, because this is your story, not mine. I want people to understand you. But like I've seen now, I think us podcasters are kind of both either lucky or haunted in the fact that we can see exactly where people are listening and not. And it's only now we're starting to see significant growth in people listening to the show. And it's like absolutely just blown my mind. I was like, oh my God, there's like all of a sudden there's an audience, bam. And it's kind of reassuring, but for years and years and years, I was kind of like, where is everybody? I mean, it hasn't been that bad. I mean, we've had lots of listeners from the beginning, but now it's just kind of exploded. It's kind of nice. It's vindication.
What was it that kept you going through the times when you didn't see the results and you didn't see that evidence?
The times when we did have the results, I was like, because like there were times when we release, like, we've always had a steady flow of listeners, but nothing I could say, we are the Shrewsbury Biscuit, kick the door in and be like, the biscuit's here. I'd never do that anyway. Social anxiety, I'd rather the ground swallow me up. But like now I feel like I can stand up and say, we did it. Like we've got our listener base. I'm very proud of that. But yeah, the times when we did better than others, and the times when people would come up to me and say, you're the biscuit guy, and they'd recognize me, and the people that really appreciate the shows, and then they're the times, the good times. The perseverance is definitely worth it, I think.
100%. It's those moments, isn't it? Those realizations of, I've actually created this and it's worked and it's impacting people, then people are following. And that's the beauty of it, is that anything worth doing doesn't come instantly. It does take time and it takes perseverance, and that's what makes it so much more worth it, I think.
It's not been an easy roller coaster, not at all. We're 400 episodes in, and
400. Wow.
For 4 years, on the 3rd of November, I believe, and 400 episodes in, and I feel like we're finally getting there, and it's not been an easy hog. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about Alex. What's young Alex like? This is why we usually start our podcasts. Is what were you like? Where did you hail from originally? I think that's the most important.
Yeah, so I am Shropshire born and bred. I grew up my first residence was Broseley, then moved to Much Wenlock at the age of 5, where I stayed, I think until I was 15 years old. And then parental separation moved me over to Cressidge. So I've been to a few places in Shropshire, and then embarked on a university degree. It took me up to Manchester. I then went and travelled quite a lot in my 20s. The whole finding yourself cliche happened, but it was the best thing that I ever did. It
seems like a cliche. It seems, I do see that as kind of a cliche, but really in real world it's not. That's kind of not a fortunate thing to be able to go and do, and to go find yourself.
I was about 22 years old, and I always refer to it as everything up to that 22-year-old me was version 1, and that Alex was very anxious, and she didn't know what she wanted to do, and she was lost and confused and really suffered from social anxiety. It was a huge thing for me. I didn't know how to interact. I think I hadn't developed socially as well as I'd seen other people around me, and I just felt at a point of, if I don't change something drastic, then I don't know what the future holds, really. So it was a real pivotal moment, and I just remember handing my notice in, and everyone around me was like, what are you doing? Because on paper, you have this amazing corporate job, you're working your way up the ladder. I'd reached managerial level, which is weird because for me, I was like, when I'm a manager, it's going to feel great and I'm going to feel accomplished. And I felt nothing, and I felt absolutely nothing. And I was like, okay, right, we need to change something. So I suppose I say it's cliche, but it's not. But getting on that plane and leaving was a real symbol of, I'm going to change my life. And then slowly the change happened from that very point. But when I actually look back, I think Steve Jobs once said, when you look back, you can connect the dots. That first dot on the map of what I'm living now was, I'm not going to conform to what I think I should do or what I think people expect of me. I'm going to do something rebellious and a bit wild, and I don't know what the outcomes are going to be, but that's okay as well.
That's really interesting. It really is interesting because I found this microphone, when I was in my 30s. And I feel like if I'd have found this when I was younger, I'd have been somewhere completely different in life right now, because I know that this is something I can rock. I can do this. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the fact that you've found that at such a young age is really, really important, because that's inspiring. People look at that and think, I can do that. There's a lot of young women out there that are thinking, I don't want to be tied to the average life, the jobs, the humdrum thing. I can go out there and do that because Alex McCarthy did it.
I think it's important to mention that even though I can see how it would be inspiring, that it really did come from a place of pain. So I think anyone who's listening who is in pain, who feels lost, who feels stuck, who feels confused, it's knowing that you have the ability to change your life, but it will only happen if you're brave enough to step away from what the life that you think that you were maybe meant to have, or the one that your parents might be wanting you to have, the one that your friends might be wanting you to have. It feels really scary to step away from that.
Yeah.
So it's almost you're rewarded by being willing to go to somewhere that feels at the time really uncomfortable.
Was it a fight for survival, do you think? Was that a do or die moment for you? No, that sounds quite morbid, but in a motivational way, I am going to do this, otherwise I'm just going to be stuck here for the rest of my life, sort of thing.
You've hit the nail on the head, really. It was a point when I was 22 years old. Not only was I unfulfilled and unhappy and felt lost, stuck and confused, I'd say it was a point where all of the programming that I'd received from childhood, from growing up, the belief system that I had, all of the way that I functioned was not making me happy. And whether we want to refer to it as mental health or mindset or my mood or how I was feeling was very, very negative. And I was aware that because I wasn't changing anything, I was stuck in this cycle going round and round and round and round. And so it did come to that moment where I was like, if I don't drastically change, and it wasn't just change, I had this realization that I could learn to think in a different way. I read a book and now I'm trying to be like, what was the first
I've done that before.
I read a book this one time. I read a book and it really inspired me. And the concept of the book was that you could change your thoughts, change your life. And that really landed for me. I was like, change your thoughts means you can choose your thoughts, which means what I'm thinking, even though it's affecting how I'm feeling, there's somewhere more I can go with this. Mm-hmm. And again, it's this mixture of having that inspiration from the books, podcasts. I also started listening to lots of podcasts, and I just started to realize that there were other people in the world who were living lives that were really inspiring to me, and I wanted to be a bit more like them.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what have they done? And a lot of them have this similar path, if you like, where they hit a point and go, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And they choose to do something really scary and see where that goes and allow themselves to go on a path where you can't actually see or know where the end point is, but you know that it's better than the one that you're choosing currently that's not serving you.
You're writing your own book.
Yeah, like you've got the pen and you're right, okay, I'm writing my story.
Chapter 1.
Let's just write off the first bit and let's start on a new chapter. But when you know that the pen's in your hand and it's not in anyone else's, it's really empowering, because even if you fail, if you get it wrong, if you make the wrong decision, if you go off and try this thing, this relationship, this career, this business, and it doesn't work, at least you tried. Which is so much better than getting to some stage in your life later down the line, looking back and going, I didn't even give that a go. I didn't even allow myself to be curious about it.
That's very thought-provoking, isn't it? That is that thing, isn't it? And I think we've all been for those moments where, why didn't I go? Why didn't I do that thing? I think we've all had moments like that in our lives, and I try and grab moments like that with my hands. I mean, recently, I mean, there was the Shropshire Music Awards. Big shout out to the organisers there. Great guys. Trademark Blood. Love you. Great guy. And I lost my voice. I could not talk.
Oh, no.
And so I couldn't go. And I regret that so much. But I'd have just made everyone ill. I'd have sounded terrible on the microphone. It would have been terrible. But recently, that's a pain that I'm kind of like living with at the moment. I'm going tomorrow night to the after party. That's until 4:00, but I won't be there till 4:00 in the morning. Where did you go on the plane? Where was your journey to? When you finally decided you're going to go, where did you go?
The first destination was actually Dubai. I was with my ex-partner, and we traveled. We did the whole thing, the first initial traveling thing together, which was lovely to have someone to do it with as well, to share the experience with. But we headed to Dubai first. We spent New Year's Eve in Dubai. We went and saw David Guetta. We went to,
wow.
David
Guetta.
Which at the time just felt amazing. We're in this city surrounded by these lights at this gig in the middle of Dubai, and we were just there for a really short window as a pit stop before we went to Southeast Asia. We spent 4 months working our way around Thailand and Laos and Cambodia, Vietnam. And I'd never experienced such a culture shock as arriving in Asia and being like, whoa, okay, this is completely different to anything I've ever experienced before. And it was so humbling to realize what I actually had back at home when I was ready to go back to the Western world. But it was beautiful, and I felt my mind just opened and my eyes really opened, and even just the healing that came from being in a different part of the world. And I think realizing that I knew that I was doing the right thing. It's really hard to explain the feeling.
No, I can kind of relate in a way. I mean, I'd love to go to Vietnam. I really would. I watched a Top Gear special, and I was like, oh my God, it just looks amazing. My wife is from South America. We've been to Colombia a couple of times, and I mean, you can't compare. Culture is amazing, right? Because you can go to different places, and like the family setup alone is different in every single continent, right? And there's certain things about a Colombian family where you walk in and you can't just go, all right guys. You can't do that. You've got to say hello to everybody individually. The whole meal thing, everybody getting together, it's just so different. There's such an intense but nice warm feeling when it comes to the family, and I feel like you got to collect little things about that. It's nice. What did you take from that you think you've kept with you, going and sampling different cultures from around the world?
I think the biggest thing that I learn is that I have something to learn from every single person that I meet. I've got something to take from them, and I love meeting new people. And that was a new thing for me, going from I am terrified to talk to people to people are fascinating, and I'm meeting all these people from different parts of the world. And it wasn't just the people who were native to that country. You would also meet people who were on their travels and soul searching and had their own reasons for being in this remote, different part of the world. And I just met so many interesting people, and people who were a lot more like me, I felt, than some of the people that I was mixing with at the time that I left home. Yeah. And I still have an incredible network here in Shropshire and Shrewsbury, and I'm so grateful for them. But I've also met some beautiful people from all over the world, and it just made me realise that people weren't scary, as scary as I thought that they were. And it gave me confidence, and I'd never felt confident before. But you've got no choice when you're traveling and you're sat at a hostel. You can sit on your own and read your book, which sometimes I did. I like to be a hermit sometimes, but I actually felt really intrigued to go and sit at a table with a group of people that I'd never spoken to before. Yeah. Yeah. And it just slowly broke down that wall of anxiety and allowed me to be more sociable, which was a really enlightening experience.
I feel like you get, when it comes, I was talking about this with my guest yesterday, Derek Willis, and I was talking about how I used to. So again, like we're talking about Biscuit and bad experiences. I thought it'd be a really good idea to stand on Pride Hill with a microphone and ask people where they were shopping for Christmas, right? And people just walked past me, swore at me. I was like, oh my God. And this is like early back in the day, and that kind of traumatized me a little bit. So getting Vox Pops with mobile microphones is kind of what we do it now. We go to festivals and stuff, but there was a long time there when it was really hard for me to do that because of what I'd put myself through, you know, because I've really, honestly, a guy with social anxiety getting told to F off on Pride Hill, it just hammered that home that that's not what people want to do. But I was at an event where I kind of balled up all this energy. It's like, right, who wants to speak to me? And I went kind of around waving my microphone at people in a really energetic way. And people were drawn to me and people were coming to see me. And I feel like that's because we had this energy exchange. And that's I learned that.
It's magnetic.
Yeah.
Like when you're open and you are bringing the energy and you've got enthusiasm and you're passionate, people can't help but be drawn like a magnet towards that.
Yeah.
And it's the same as if you were to be in a room full of people, the person you would probably most want to chat to would be giving that energy out. If you sat in the corner with your shoulders hunched over, faced away from everybody, people might just not notice you. And I suppose it's weird because I don't know if you have this thing as well, but when I am in a group now, I do actually go for the underdog, the person who I can see is struggling the most. And I see a bit of me in them and I'm like, I'm going to go and befriend them.
Yeah, I've done that for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give them a gentle bit of reassurance.
I mean, a few friends that way.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I think you can kind of connect with them on a sort of carnal nature. You know, it's kind of like a caveman kind of instinct. You know, you can kind of latch onto certain things. You know, when you come back from traveling and you've stumped all these things, you're back in Shropshire. What happens with your life then where you want to start helping other people?
I've always had a burning desire to help other people, and I've never known what to do with it. It actually used to give me a lot of stress and panic because I felt like I should be a doctor or a nurse or a paramedic, or I should be doing something and helping more people because I've got a thing. So finding a channel for that was really quite, I'm going
to take pictures. Sorry, I always have to say this because people. I just stopped you in your stride by telling you I'm going to take pictures. But yeah, so you felt like you want to be a doctor. You want to help people, and you know.
Yeah. So there was this real moment when I came back from traveling where I thought, what is it that I do next? And it was a really pivotal moment. And actually, I had this amazing opportunity coming back from Australia was the country that I left because I'd lived there for 2 years. And my employer in Australia was getting me to do marketing and social media it was a big tech company. And I'm a big believer in signs from the universe and that you're offered opportunities sometimes that will change your life when you say yes. And
I'm so glad to hear you say that, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we can go there. So they'd offered me an opportunity to manage their social media remotely. So they were like, would you like to run our Facebook, Instagram, email marketing from the UK? And when I was in Asia, to backtrack a little bit, I met loads of online entrepreneurs. So they were social media managers, they were online coaches, and I had never heard anything about this before. And it really intrigued me that they were traveling. They had a remotely independent business, but that they could take anywhere around the world. They were creating income, which meant that they didn't have to create this saving pot to go traveling with. They did both at the same time. They traveled and they worked. And that blew my mind because I wasn't able to do that. I had to save and then really scrimp through every day that I spent doing my traveling. So fast forward to having this remote job opportunity come through, I immediately said, yes, absolutely, I'm in, let's do it. And I then realized, as I said yes, that I was starting my own business. So if we think about manifesting, I was manifesting the thing that I wanted those 2 years previously when I'd seen the people doing it in Southeast Asia. And it just ignited this fire inside of me where I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this happen. And I used my package, I guess, that I was delivering to the first client, and started to then offer a similar thing. I started to market my services online. I started to speak to local businesses, and I was so excited. I didn't know what I was doing, really. I knew the fundamentals, but I was also like, do you know what? There's so much information on YouTube. There's all these books. I am just going to learn as much as I can every day and be okay with knowing there'll always be someone who's doing better than me and knows more than me. But it's the willingness to learn that's going to get me started on this journey. So my first business was helping businesses with their social media. And it wasn't until probably 2 years into that business that I realized the thing that I loved about the business was the people, and seeing their transformation through helping them with their social media. Actually, I wasn't just helping them with their social media. We were helping them overcome imposter syndrome. We were working on their confidence. They would be opening up to me and talking to me about things that were going on at home with their relationships. And before I knew it, I actually had this realization that I was running a coaching business, but that realization didn't happen until later down the line. And it was then where I had a moment, again, a big choice of where do I really want to fully commit 100% to creating actually and owning that this is a coaching business, and that I am good at doing what I do, and actually I'm helping people, and I found that thing, that that big thing that I wanted to do. And it was in 2020 that I decided to go and do a coaching diploma. I also did a neuro-linguistic programming certification. And in studying for those things, sounds cheesy, but I knew I had this overwhelming feeling of I found my thing. It was magic. It was amazing.
I think there are very few people out there in the world that feel that. I mean, that's what, the calling or a vocation, something you were born to do. And a lot of musicians, artists, podcasters, we all kind of feel that, and I can relate. It's one of those things that I feel like if I wasn't doing this, what I'm doing now, I would just be less of a person. I think I'd just be a misery, just a misery, because I love this. I mean, it's crazy that a guy that suffers from social anxiety. I went to pick up a laptop. With my work, I have a very small office, but I went to the HQ today to pick up a brand new laptop. Big, huge offices, lots of people about. And I was just head down, grab my laptop, and just get out there as quick as possible. Yeah, if they were sat in my studio doing my thing with the biscuit, they would have been completely different. And it's the same with you. You found what you were doing, and you kind of got. Did you get a lot of momentum then? Or was it all quick at the start, or was it? Did it take its time to get going?
I feel that my life has been in a state of acceleration in the best possible way from the moment that there was point one when I left to go traveling. That was a big change. And the moment I landed back, because I knew I was not going back to get a job. It was just, everything in me was just screaming at me Alex, you've got to make this work. Like, this is it. This is your opportunity. And there is a choice there. I knew that it wasn't going to land on my lap, and it wasn't going to be necessarily the easiest path to take.
Go get it, girl.
And I had a moment where my old employer asked me to go and meet him for a coffee, probably like 4 months after I got back, and offered me an incredible opportunity to go back to my old job as a director with a very, very nice salary. And let's just remember at the time that I said no to that job opportunity and decided to pursue my business, that it was really in the infancy. And it felt so weird to sit there and say, no, thank you, when I had no idea if it was actually going to work or not. But I always take it back to self-belief. And I don't know where that comes from in me, but I've always known that it was going to work out. I don't know where that comes from, but I knew in that moment that I will sit and have a coffee with you in a few years' time, and I will have exceeded this offer that you're putting in front of me now. I obviously didn't say this, but a bit of an aside. But it also stoked the fire to I want to be able to sit and have this coffee with you in a few years' time, and I've exceeded this offer, but I'm creating and making this income, doing something that I love and that I'm excited to get out of bed in the morning to do. Which I think for so many of us, we think it's a job, it pays the bills, we need to just get it done, we need to tick a box. And if you are someone who has that nudge and that itch that you can't quite scratch, that's like you are made for more, you could do more, have you achieved or reached your potential? If you're having those conversations internally, then I urge you to go and explore that, because there are people who need you to show them the way, to guide them, to shine the light and be like, yeah, you can do it.
And this is what I love about you. I love about your energy is that there are people that are self-made that, I guess to a certain degree deserve to be able to go, I made it. Yeah, look at what I've did. But you're not. You're like, I did it. Let's go. You come with me. And there's a lot of encouragement about you. And that's what I really like. You don't impose yourself. You welcome people in. I see that. I'm sorry.
No, that's don't apologize at all. I love people, and I love seeing people believe in themselves and have that realization that they can do it. It's the most beautiful thing ever, and I'm a big fan of the word transformation, and I love that people have this capability to change and to grow. And I think really as humans, we're not meant to stay the same. We're meant to grow. It's the same as nature. It grows, it evolves, and it's the same that we're actually happier, I think, fundamentally, when we're working towards a goal, we're becoming more confident in doing something, we're seeing that progress within ourselves. And that's what I love about coaching. I think it's a very misunderstood industry, and a lot of people still ask me, if they meet me for the first time and I say, I'm a coach, they're like, a sports coach? What kind of
to the baseline?
Like, football? No. If you work with a coach, I think it's you actually saying yes to yourself, and that you're willing to even just be curious to see what you're capable of achieving, which is exciting.
I needed you a couple of years ago. We only just started getting places where I needed to get now. And it's amazing to speak to you, because what I was going to ask you was, I think it's a really important question is, I'm going to read it word for word as I've written it down. I don't usually do this, but what's easier, motivating yourself or motivating others?
My answer for that is that I motivate myself by motivating others. And I'll elaborate on that. I am self-motivated because I have chosen to live a life where I'm massively being of service to other people. And that feeling of being of service, that it is for me, but it's for me because it's for you. And I don't know if that grammatically made any sense.
No, it does make sense, because you're helping others, which helps you. That's your drive. Let's go and get Sandra that yacht. Do you know what I mean? Like let's go make, you're making someone. I feel like there are a few people out there that, when it comes to empathy and compassion, and you can understand what it's like to want something and to go out there and go and get it. When you fulfilled that, I guess there's a lot of satisfaction in that, in a not in a selfish way, in a way that you've done that, you've helped them people do that thing, and it's I can see that.
I think there's a phrase that's something along the lines of giving is living, or living is giving. It's one of the I don't know which way around it is, but it's the essence of what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that when you give to somebody else and you do something that is going to help somebody, it helps you to feel happier and better about yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that you can heal a lot of stuff that goes on internally from finding a way to be of service to others, like you do with the podcast. You put it out there because you're going to help and inspire and impact everyone who chooses to listen to this. And it's the same. There's so many mediums that we can find to do this, but there is no better feeling than helping other people. Yeah. And I think for those of us that are feeling down at the moment and we're feeling like life's not in a good place and we're stuck and we're confused and we don't know what the next step is and we're just feeling maybe a bit deflated and scared.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of negativity going on, especially in the press at the moment, and we're trying to avoid that. And I'm personally, in my own personal life, I am struggling with the comments. There's so much going on politically on social media at the moment, and it's really hard to stay away from. But with the Shrewsbury Biscuit, it's very, very easy. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about we talk about something positive. What's good that's going on in the world, because people see that enough of that in the world, and that's kind of where I get a lot of satisfaction with the biscuit. Is that it's positive stuff, and it's all about the town. So it's very easy to get wrapped up in that. I prefer to be someone that is known for like giving rather than taking. I don't want to be that person that's taking everything for myself. I've kind of been known for helping people out a little bit, and that's kind of where it comes from. That's where people reach out. How do you like to? Because you're given an awful lot when it comes to coaching people and helping people for their lives and stuff. How do you stay motivated? Because that must be very, you must expel a lot of energy doing that.
Yeah, I think that it takes some structure and discipline and willpower to be motivated. And for me, motivation is like a muscle, and I treat my motivation or my mindset, let's say, like a muscle, the same as you go into a gym and you'd specifically work on this muscle, and in order to condition that and to make it stronger, you would go into the gym and pick up that weight and do that thing every day, and it would get that little bit stronger each time that you consistently do that. So I treat my mindset exactly the same. And it's like every single day, how am I going to work and condition and intentionally grow that muscle? Not so I can suddenly wake up and say, hey, I'm motivated. It's that I know I'm creating that motivation through continually taking action. I think there's so many people who are like, I just don't feel motivated, or I'll do it when I feel motivated. And for me, I'm like, go and create that motivation yourself.
Yeah. I struggled yesterday. I was very, very tired, very lethargic. And it's only when I started doing some things that I kind of got the energy. It's weird how you can wake up some mornings and be like, and then you suddenly start getting that momentum going. And yesterday I didn't stop, but I felt good about it. I was constantly go. I think I congratulated myself on Facebook, which is a very, very cringe thing to do, but I felt like I needed it. I felt like, what, Alex, well done. You did a good job today.
Celebrate yourself. Yeah. Why do we as humans have this weird thing where we can't congratulate ourselves or give ourselves a shout out when we've done something well? We'll do it for other people. But actually, when you choose to do that, well done, Alex. Well done, Al. when you do that, it inspires someone else to do it for themselves. And we should all be supporting and celebrating each other, because when we're connected and when we're doing that, we're so much happier. So yes, I do think that you should celebrate yourself as much as possible.
What's more beneficial when it comes to sort of changing things up a gear and becoming, I won't say a different version of yourself, but the more successful version of you? What's more important, going out and finding new fresh ideas, or sticking to the tried and tested method of becoming successful?
I don't think that there's a blueprint for success. I used to think that was the case. I read all the books and listened to all of the podcasts that told you the 5 key things that you needed to do to be successful. I think the biggest thing for me is getting around people who are inspirational to you. If you're watching somebody, or of an event or a group or something you can go to get around people who are energizing for you, that will fundamentally change who you are, but not so you change to a different person. And this is the thing when it comes to personal development and change. People are terrified of who they'll become. Will people still like me if I become this different person? You will only become more yourself.
Yeah.
That's all that happens. You just strip away all of those hindering, limiting beliefs and those silly thoughts that we have that hold us back, and you just let that go, and you're okay with being what's underneath all of that.
There's an episode. Okay, it's going to go on a weird route now, but I love Rick and Morty, right? And there's this episode of Rick and Morty where they go into this toxicity machine, and it takes away all the bad toxins. and it basically takes all the characteristics of their personality that the machine deems negative and chucks them into a vat, right? And so but they keep their consciousness, and they have this argument. Anyway, but like what it does to Morty, because Morty's like super anxious, super nervous, also all depression and stuff. He becomes this he becomes this super positive energy, like almost like an overly positive monster that's just kind of like. And I always thought that was really, really a unique thing to see, because when you taking negativity out, it's like it's usually all the bad things, and you're left with this. It's good that you can take away what you perceive to be negative, holding you back, and keep going forward, because it must be a hard thing to do.
It is difficult, but what I always say is we don't come into this world doubting ourselves. We're not born with limiting beliefs.
We learn that, don't we?
We learn it. Yeah, we learn it through nurture, sometimes nature. A lot of the time it's through your role models, your family, things you experience at school, things you experience as an adult in a relationship. And slowly we learn to doubt ourselves and not trust ourselves.
Yeah.
And that always fascinates me, that when you imagine maybe thinking back to a time when you were a child and you were full of all this imagination and you had your make-believe games, and you wouldn't think twice about like meeting new people and running up to new groups and just allowing your mind to wander and be curious. We seem to lose a bit of that magic sometimes when we're adults, and we think we have to be serious and we can't play and be creative and silly anymore.
Yeah. And that's why I'm grateful for the podcast and stuff, because I have to, I do different things. I don't just do the biscuit, but I did it for years. We did US UK. It was great. The Inglorious Bar Stores. We can have a couple of beers with the guys. We can get a bit sweary and stuff, because I feel like you need to access that inner child. You need to be able to sort of blow off a bit of steam. What do you do? I mean, like, it must be great to be able to blow off a bit of steam yourself and to recharge those batteries. What do you like to do to be able to make sure you can do that?
I love exercise. I do not want to do it ever. Honestly, I'm one of those people who drives to the gym and I'll sit in the gym car park for 15 minutes talking myself out of going into the gym. Then I'll sometimes drive away and then drive back. And I really have this mental battle getting in there. But once I do that exercise, I am a different level of energy. It invigorates me to the next level. I love to dance. Even if it's just cranking up some drum and bass in the house and just having a rave round, doing a bit of cleaning, doing a bit of dancing. Music massively energizes me. And I love people. So when I'm not coaching, definitely energizes me. But I love also meeting new groups of people and, throwing myself into weird and wonderful groups that I probably would never go to, would never have gone to back in the day. I've done a few. Have you heard of a cacao ceremony?
No.
I've done a few of those this year. So I love a festival, and I like to drink alcohol with my friends, and I have a good time doing that.
Yeah, we all do.
However, I was introduced to the concept of dancing sober in a group this year. And someone introduced the concept to me and said, look, do you want, a friend of mine, Emma, said, do you fancy coming with me? We basically drink this ceremonial, like it's cacao. It's a type of very nutritious hot chocolate. I'm probably discrediting, not doing it justice, but it's really nice. But you drink that, you do a group meditation, and then basically they put on the tunes. You've got your disco lights going on, and you dance without alcohol or any other substances, and you let yourself go. And me thinking about that, old social anxiety Alex came out, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is not
dancing like an idiot.
That's not going to happen. And she was like, go on, just try it. I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I can get in the car and I can drive home. And actually what happened is I just unlocked this other version of me that didn't care, not only didn't care, had the best time ever.
I want to go on a
Come with me.
I want to.
The next one they do, actually, they're Forever Cacao. The last one was in Shrewsbury, but I actually missed it. The next one's in Oswestry on the Friday the 11th of November. So if anyone fancies, I'm going to be there Friday the 11th of November. If you fancy, I call them a hot chocolate rave. But
hot chocolate rave, okay.
But to get back in your car and have just connected and had so many amazing conversations with people, you've danced, you've got all the endorphins and all of the feel-good chemicals going on. Like, it's really cool.
I covered... I just realised I've still got my name badge on from work. Oh my God, I've been walking around
Just
with that all day.
in case I forgot.
Yeah, sorry, that's my name. We did Pod Aid a few weeks ago, 24-hour podcast. You know, it was an absolute... this podcast is going to go out in like 2 weeks, I think, and people will be still going on about Pod Aid. It was very recent, right? And I was just dead to the world afterwards. I'm like, it was a long day anyway, but we went to Oktoberfest the next day on the 1st, and... When I'm doing these things, when I'm covering these things with my cameras and stuff, I'll have a few pints. So, you know, I had 3 drinks, which is not enough to get drunk, and I wasn't at all. And we went to the silent disco, and I feel like I created a vlog. It's still on YouTube. Go and check it out. But like, it's I was talking about how I really needed that energy. I really needed people smiling and dancing and jumping around, and that dancing, that kind of transference of energy, like we mentioned earlier. It just really invigorated me. It really, really helped me. It really gave me a bit of a boost that I needed. So, you know, dancing with hot chocolate, I can see that.
You drink the hot chocolate, then dance. I mean, dancing with the hot chocolate might
dangerous.
be a bit of a dangerous act. But it's there's something about the fact that your physiology directly affects your psychology. I think movement is fundamental to mindset as well. And if you are having a bit of a crap day, even just taking yourself up and out on a walk, something as simple as just, I'm going to move my body in the most simplest way, something shifts, always shifts, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled in a bit of meditation before, and you know, I've done that. I do see the benefits, and especially when it comes to, we went camping a while ago, and we were in these amazing bell tents that are great. But one of the things I could do, which I don't get to living in an upstairs apartment, is I went out and I bare feet and crunch the grass with my toes and stuff, and that's like really, really nice. It really does. Who told me about it? Was it oh gosh, somebody told me about that, and there's something about going out into nature and with your bare feet and kind of absorbing that.
Yeah, it's called like earthing is the concept, but it reduces inflammation in your body. It's calming. It's scientifically proven that it will calm you. And it's something about, and it sounds really, I think some people might think the concept's hippie, but honestly, go and look this stuff up. It has scientific backing behind it, but it's earthing or grounding. But even if you've got your bare feet out on the grass, even if you're going to find a stream or a river or somewhere you can just go and get in and be immersed in nature, go and have a walk in the forest. That also works too. Hug a tree, you know, that also works too. I am one of those. Love hugging a tree. Love a tree hug.
I'd like to talk to you about organisation, because organisation is a huge part of becoming, I don't know, man, because sometimes I can be like super organised. At the moment, I'm on it. I can see all these things going on with the biscuit at the moment. I'm kind of like, yes, I need this, and this. But sometimes I can just be an absolute mess, especially when it comes to keeping a diary and a schedule and things like this. How can you transform someone who's completely messy and complete chaotic in someone that will be organised and go forward and make sure that they are successful in that kind of area?
That's a great question. And I would say the biggest thing that I help any client that comes to me and with a time management issue, or maybe an organizational issue, or they just feel like they're chaotic and everything is rushed and they don't feel like they have a grasp on their day-to-day, their week-to-week, their month-to-month. My calendar system and scheduling system, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without it. So I personally use Google Calendar, but any online calendar system where you can see what your week looks like from the moment that you wake up until the moment that you go to sleep, and you can actually get realistic with how many hours of the day do I have to do the things that I need and want to do. So rather than writing these massive to-do lists that we just kind of carry around and cross a few of the easiest tasks off, and then we're like, I haven't done that thing that's been on my list for like 3 months now, you know.
I've got a whiteboard on my fridge behind you. I love to carry a whiteboard I've got loads of them. I put them in my bag, and I get so much satisfaction out of writing 3 or 4 things on that list and just wiping it off. Did that. They're not like to-do lists to do like over the next week. They're like, if I'm sitting down at my desk and I've got like an thing to edit here and a bit of artwork to do here, and I know that it's there in front of me then. But diary keeping for me is super important because I forget things all the time. There's nothing worse than getting an email of, are we doing that thing in 10 minutes? And I'm sat at home eating donuts and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I hear you. I used to keep like 3 paper diaries, which is ridiculous thinking back. It was one for personal, one for business, and I don't know what the other one was for. But I actually don't keep any paper diary now. Absolutely everything is on Google Calendar. And I have the app on my phone. I have reminders that come through that tell me what I'm doing as I move throughout the day. And I constantly have a bird's eye view of my life. And I think for a long time, I felt really stressed because I would enter into a Monday and all I would have is a list. And I wouldn't feel like I knew how that list was spread and how I prioritized and how I allocated those things into the week. Whereas now, I sit on a Sunday, I look at the calendar, have it up in front of me, and I'm like, okay, these are the pockets of time I can work with around, coaching sessions. I can work on that project there.
Come and see Al on the biscuit.
I can have some, I can come and do a podcast interview. I put my exercise into it before the week starts. So I know that's when I'm going to hold myself. It's about accountability as well. So long answer to your question, but a huge thing that changed my life and really helps my clients is let's up-level our calendar and scheduling system to something that I can actually see what I'm working with day to day, week to week.
This may sound really corny, but I love looking back on my diary because I'm like, I did loads that week. I like looking back and being like, I was so productive that week. I got so much done, and flicking back like, I'm a busy guy. I'm a busy guy.
Well, I actually was speaking to a gentleman that I met at a networking event last week, and he actually said that he does the online calendar system and a paper diary.
Yeah, I have 2 different diaries. I have my fridge diary, my calendar up there, and I have a paper diary. I try Google calendars, and I've got in there is work. I've still got my gym. I haven't been to the gym in months, but gym still pops up because I know for a fact that when I do start going back to the gym, they're the times when I can fit it into my schedule, and I know that will never change because of how my shifts work and stuff. So it's something I can definitely move to because it's easy, isn't it? Because you can have your different emails and stuff on Google Calendars. You can have one for the biscuit, I can have one for personal, and it just have different colors. So I might take you up on that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to try it.
That makes me happy.
Well,
you won't regret it.
You can't see what the looks I'm getting now. I'm going, no, I've got my paper diaries, and Alex is just like, okay, I'll take you up on that. I'm going to try just using Google Calendars because I know my wife hates that thing on the fridge because it's just ink. It's just ink all over the place. So I'll try it. I'll try the Google Calendars, and you guys do as well. The listeners that are tuning in now, try Google Calendars.
Give it a try, and I haven't had anyone come back to me and say they regretted giving that a try. It's just, if you want to get organised, that's a great first step.
One thing I hate, I used to work with someone who was just absolutely just mental with it. Right, it was Post-it notes. I used to work with someone that I'd come to them and there'd just be Post-it notes everywhere. And I'd be like, well, what is this? Like, I can't do Post-it notes. I think they just look a mess.
This is the thing, is tidy space, tidy mind. And I think if we can bring everything into one place and make it systemized and declutter, it just feels so much easier to step into it.
Yeah.
I don't know about your, when I have a desk space and I'm working, it's the same. I can't have piles of paperwork and clutter and Post-its. It's just got to be tidy.
My desk is really cool. I used to have a really tiny desk because of the way it's an apartment, but we arranged it so I can have this nice big corner desk, which is great at the moment because I have my big screen. I can sit, I can record, I can edit, I can type, I can do whatever I need to do. I've got my radio stuff underneath when I do the radio. It's just everything I need it to be, and it needs to look like that. Otherwise, it's not functionable. So it's kind of helped me out an awful lot. So let's talk about your business and sort of how you've helped people and stuff. It must be really nice for you to be able to see people transform themselves, using that word that you like, transform. Mm-hmm. How is that for you? How long have you been doing it for? And recently, have you seen anything that's inspired you?
All of my clients inspire me so much. They they're incredible. And I just have so much admiration for someone who is willing to go on a real journey of transformation and change, because it's difficult. And this is the thing, is that you can read all the books, do all the journaling, the visualizations, the affirmations, the manifesting, the actual transition, becoming a different version, a more evolved version of yourself. It requires you to get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's the bit maybe that isn't spoken about as much. And as a coach, I'm so honored that I get to be that chunk, that part, that section. I get to be in that section of their life with them. But as someone who is not just, it's not my job to tell anyone what I think they should do. I try to help people figure out what they want for themselves, and then help them to go and get it and figure out how they go out there and get that thing.
Does there come a point in the transition, or the journey that you've had with these guys, where you've got to give them a gentle push down the river? Right, you go on your own now. You fly away.
It's actually the most beautiful thing. Is I get asked the question sometimes of, is it awkward, or is it sad when a client doesn't want to work with you anymore? I'm like, I've done my job. If they say, Alex, I don't need you anymore, it's like they've grown from, it's that butterfly, like they've spread their wings, and they're like, I don't need you to support and guide me anymore, because I know who I am and I know what I want. And for me, that is the best feeling ever. And so
I had a look on your website as well, and there's the testimonials there are really lovely to see. You are tried and tested in a good way. The results are there for people to see. And so, if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, who's this Alex McCarthy person? Go and have a look. Your website is Alex McCarthy.
AlexMcCarthyCoaching.co is my website. Yes.
Go and have a look. And what kind of clients are you tend to come to you?
So the majority of my clients are female business owners. I do also work with men. I have 3, if you like, areas of my business. The primary one is business coaching, so helping people to start and grow and scale mainly service-based businesses. My expertise lies heavily in social media marketing, but really the essence of what I do is figuring out who you are, so you can figure out the type of business that you want. You can craft an offer and a package that delivers a real solution to somebody, which I think is a huge thing. If you don't have a thing that actually solves a problem, do you have a business? A lot of the time we have an idea of wanting to be this entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner. But I love to help people really connect to and understand what that thing is that they need to be able to go out there and actually have a business that is successful and does generate a full-time income and does allow them to do all of the other things they want to do. So I've got business coaching, then I've got life coaching, which I think that's misunderstood a lot of the time. Life coaching is also mindset coaching, it's personal coaching. And that's for people who just feel like they just don't know what they want out of life. I don't know if I want a business. I don't know if I want to travel. I don't know if I want to be in this relationship anymore. I'm stuck, I'm confused, I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I stand for. That is a time in your life where perhaps coaching would be useful for you to explore that with somebody who can ask you the questions that you need to be asked, the questions you probably won't ask yourself because they're difficult.
It must be really nice because, like, we've all been in those situations where we're in a bit of a rut and we don't know how to get out of it. And it must be really nice to be able to go like, Alex, I need help. And then you're like, right, this is what we do first. That kind of breeze through the door. Let's make some changes. Let's shake off the bed covers and whatever. Make sure everything's, that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And I would do encourage any of my listeners to get in touch with Alex and to make sure that if you are struggling, I mean, what do you prefer to do? Do you prefer, when it comes to business coaching, a business that started right at the beginning and you're helping them through their journey, or untangling something and fixing something? What do you prefer?
I think there's something really special about being with someone at the very, very beginning of their business journey, where it just goes from a concept and a seed in their mind to actually like seeing them get their first clients and seeing them just really like expand into this space that they never believed they could. They did believe they could, but there's a bit of them that's in disbelief. Like, I'm actually doing this. I'm actually a business owner and my business works. And making more money than I ever thought I could make. And it's a really beautiful thing. But I also love working with business owners who feel like they've plateaued and they fell out of love with their business, and helping them to reinvigorate that motivation and for them to fall in love with maybe just doing it a different way, maybe changing up, pivoting. The crazy thing about the thing with coaching is you always have the answer. I don't have it, but I help you to find it within yourself. And that's the thing about it, is sometimes you just need someone to almost hold that mirror up to you for you to go, yeah, of course that's the thing.
It's the essence of empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel at the moment, I know we're running short on time, but I think it's worth mentioning before we get out of here that over the last couple of years, I'd say certainly during COVID and a little bit afterwards, I wasn't falling out of love with the biscuit, not at all. But it's been so easy sometimes just to have been like, I'm not doing this anymore. There have been times it's been quite tough, but recently, if you run a business, you might understand this lingo. My bank is now talking with Companies House perfectly, right? It's all lined up, and I'm like, oh my God, I can start bringing in sponsors, and all of a sudden, I'm like really excited, and I want to make things. I'm writing up presentations, and I'm trying to bring in funding, and I'm like, we can go somewhere with the biscuit now, and I feel so energized. And I feel like the excitement's back again, and let's go and do some amazing things. So if you want to sponsor the Shrewsbury Biscuit and be heard, because we do have a loud voice, guys, and it's getting louder and louder. I'm very proud of what we're achieving with the biscuit as far as listeners and downloads are concerned at the moment. So if you do want to get involved, there's lots of potential there. So I might actually speak to Alex about how I can improve my my reach when it comes to bringing in sponsors and working with other companies. So
I would love to help you, and I love what you just said there, because it's really the essence of just keeping going, isn't it? Even when you doubt yourself, even when times are hard, if you keep going and you're committed to doing that thing that really excites you and motivates you, it's always worth it.
It is. And there was a moment in this interview when I kind of lulled off a little bit, and that's because I'm emotionally tied to this, and what we're talking about I feel a lot with, and I'm kind of like, there's lots of emotions running through me as we're doing this conversation, because I feel like we've got a lot in common with what our journeys in a way. But you are fantastic, and you've been a great guest, and you're welcome back on anytime. I'd love. Thank
you so much for having me.
No,
this has been such a good chat. I've loved it.
I would love to, if you wanted to at some point, because you know what, it's just clicked that I spoke to Camilla Monk a few days ago.
Yes.
She's amazing, and she was talking about the seed of an idea becoming a new house. In her case, something that she's designed, and she loves that idea. And I feel like maybe we could organize a podcast with you, Camilla, a couple of others, and talk about ideas and how they become what they become. I think that'd be a really good podcast.
I'm down.
Yeah, I think that'd
Count
be
me
really
in. Count me in. Yeah, I'd love that.
Wonderful. Remind people where they can find you on social media then.
Yeah, so I'm over on Instagram at Alex McCarthy Coaching. Same on Facebook, Alex McCarthy Coaching. And then just a reminder on the website, that is alexmccarthycoaching.co. But please, I'm very approachable, and if you'd like to know anything or even just have a chat, just drop me a DM or a message, and yeah, I'd love to help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we've run a bit over, but thank you so much. And guys, I really do appreciate you listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you all, and we will catch you guys on the next show. Peace out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.